Okay, class, in this video we're going to take a quick look at some accessory organs we have in the digestive system, okay, or in the abdominal cavity. So we have a large organ that sits right here underneath the diaphragm. This is going to be the liver. And the liver is there to help control some of the components of the blood, some of our nutrients. One more commonly is going to be glucose and blood sugar regulation. We know that the liver is a storage area so that if our blood sugar does drop, it can release a little bit of stored glucose or glycogen into the bloodstream and bring that blood sugar level back up. Okay. We also, so we have a number of lobes. We're not going to identify them specifically, but you can see them fairly easily. They are separate from themselves. Some of them sit actually underneath. I kind of roll this to the side and see if we can get a good view underneath the intestines and along the back wall of the abdomen. Okay. But the one thing to make note of, and I'm going to show this here, it's not a great it's a decent view, but it's not a great color variation. And what you'll see that's sitting right inside the liver, right here, is a small little pouch called the gallbladder. And the gallbladder, if you remember back to our digestive unit, creates bile, and bile is then released through the bile duct down into, it's kind of hard to find some of these ducts, but it releases it. This one is not bad. You can see it right down in here, and it goes into the duodenum. And that bile is going to help to neutralize some of the acidic contents coming from the stomach. All right. So that is our liver. Off to the side, as you saw in our the greater omentum video, is the spleen. The spleen is very easily identified. It's usually dark red, looks kind of like a tongue. And what it is going to do is it's going to help to filter blood, and it's also there to help to recycle old red blood cells. It'll break them down, take the components that are needed, reuse them to make new red blood cells, and get rid of old components that aren't needed anymore. Okay? The next one we are going to look at is the pancreas. And the pancreas is somewhat, until you know what you're looking for, it's somewhat easy to miss. And the pancreas is actually C-shaped. It runs right along the duodenum and the stomach. Okay? And it's embedded within the mesentery, and it looks kind of like a spongy material. Okay? So all along here, I'm not sure how well the video is going to do it justice, but you can see a slight color variation from here to here. If I can zoom in just a little bit, that might help. And it is going to, this one actually does, the specimen actually does have it come apart and out of that mesentery right here. You can see, so it comes up along here, comes over. It's usually a pale pinkish, yellowish color. So you can see down here it's a little more pink. Over here it's just a little more pale. And it's going to vary slightly in color from specimen to specimen. The pancreas is going to be there. The pancreatic duct is going to release some pancreatic enzymes, and more commonly people were familiar with insulin as it's used to regulate blood sugar. So it will produce and release that. All right. Those are our three main accessory organs in the abdominal cavity. And we also have, it's actually part of the urogenital system, or the urinary system. We have the kidneys. And most of the time, the kidneys, not most of the time, all the time, the kidneys sit against the back wall of the abdominal cavity. And they're covered with fat. And I've sort of pulled this one out. It's not great. They're sort of C-shaped, the kidney bean shaped, which actually that's where the kidney bean gets its name, sits over here against the side wall. The other side I've left undissected, and you'll see that this one actually sits encased in some membranes. It's very well covered and surrounded, but in this one the latex that it was injected with actually ruptured a vessel and is sort of spilled out. So it's not a great view on this side. It's usually the easier one to find, but because of its condition I'm going to go back to the other side. And you'll see we have right here, easier to find is the renal vein. And once you dissect that out, you'll see that it continues back over to the inferior vena cava. The renal artery usually sits underneath and sometimes is not filled as well with latex as the vein is. So it's sometimes more difficult to find. Off of the kidney, once it's done filtering the blood and making urine, it is going to travel down the ureter. And I have not dissected this out very well, a little bit of fat there, very well, because I want to leave some of the components of the reproductive system intact. But the ureter comes down here and actually will work its way to the bladder. And this pouch here is empty. This is the urinary bladder, all right, where urine is going to be stored until it's stimulated to be released. We relax the sphincters, internal and external sphincters, and then urination occurs. This extra tissue here, this is some fat. This is a female cat, so we often find that there's a little more abdominal fat there as well. But this round structure is the urinary bladder. All right, so once again, real quick, we have the liver. Within the liver, we have the gallbladder. Over here on this side, we have the spleen running along the duodenum, and the stomach is the pancreas. And we have our kidney, one on each side. And we are going to then go down through the ureter to the urinary bladder.